Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our second episode of Meet the Advisors. I'm here with a very special Sapien advisor who has been helping us from the early days of Sapien and is continuing to add tons of value to the project. I'll let her introduce herself.
Yes, I'm Mihaela Ulieru. I introduce myself usually to the blockchain crowd as a blockchain veteran, which is not difficult given that the technology is so young. However, I've been developing technologies that have bundled up into the what we call today blockchain since decades. I will not tell you how many because you're gonna start to count my white hairs. But yes, so I can say that I'm one of the pioneers of distributed intelligence systems, and that's why I am so happy to see initiatives such and projects such as Sapien, which are actually fulfilling the dream that I pursued and chased for all my career.
That's so great to hear. So let's start right there. How did you get involved with Sapien?
Yes, well, it was somehow serendipity. I am a Berkeley alumna, and of course, that it goes without saying that it was kind of natural for the founders to contact me, given also my reputation in the field. So I got an email, and subsequently, I had a phone conversation with Ankit, which it was beyond my dreams, I can say, because I've never been on Facebook, and I've been working on developing social media infrastructures, including in my research lab, but I could not nail it to the extent to which Sapien is doing it. So as soon as I have seen their model and, of course, their intent, immediately I clicked, and we started to co-create and co-develop. I helped with the white paper, and the rest is history.
That's great. And what specifically about Sapien did you find revolutionary, or what was the key thing that you heard that immediately you said, you know what, I want to get involved with this project?
Absolutely. So this is their unique model and capability to empower the individual in the social network. So far, all the centralized social networking platforms are disempowering us subtly, because we feel empowered, because we have a voice, because our family and friends can hear that voice. However, behind the curtains, we are slaves. Our data is being misused. Our identities are played with. And as such, it is a subversive game, which I could never adhere to. While Sapien is actually doing the opposite. They are giving the full power as well as the accountability, because with empowerment comes accountability. Now I am accountable as an identity on the social network. My word counts, which is amazing. However, I'm also accountable for my word. So fake news are going to be sieved away by the reputation engine, because my reputation goes with my word. So I can say that Sapien is a platform on which my word is my bond is really true, and it's happening. So that's, of course, something which I haven't seen before. And of course, from here, we can go on and on with the other features, which probably, but for me, one of the most important ones is also the customer to brand advertising, because I don't need to swallow the advertisement which Facebook would throw in my face without any sense. But I can choose to look at advertisements which I want, and on top of this, be rewarded for it.
Great. No, and I completely agree. And in our last Meet the Advisor, I was talking with AJ, and he used the line, data is the new oil. And what's really cool about that is the user actually produces that data, but on other networks like Facebook, Twitter, for example, you're giving that data, you're giving that oil to the centralized authority, and none of it stays with you. And this is actually a really good transition, because yesterday you spoke for the US blockchain caucus. Can you tell us about how that went?
Yes, absolutely. So this was the third meeting of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus and the third and last one. So I really had an opportunity to bring my contribution. And of course, Sapien was on the list of contributions. So what is the main interest concerning Sapien in that context is that identity is indeed an issue. It's an issue in many ways, especially now that the government in the US is requiring that higher, I could say, security measures for people who are flying. So driver's licenses are not good enough anymore. As such, identities on blockchain become paramount. And one priority is, in order to avoid the DMV being flooded with millions of people who would change their driver's license with required ones and those strict requirements for biometrics and other features. Identities on blockchain are, of course, trustworthy, and it would be a definitive solution. And it is here where Sapien can help. Another thing I'd like to mention is also the fake news aspect and the fact that our voices are rewarded. And our voices, as I was saying, are heard, but also recorded now on blockchain, which makes us accountable. So the reputation stays there. Of course, I always thought of it this way. And that's how I built a reputation as a scientist, being cited and publishing. However, now every person's on the street reputation, their word counts in a different way. It has a different weight. And here is where Sapien really, really, really makes the difference.
I agree with you 100%. And I also wanted to see too, where do you see the entire space, not just Sapien, the entire blockchain space in the next 5 to 10 years? There's so many new technologies. I know you're involved in many fantastic projects, and I'm actually going to put a link in the description to the Expresso blog. They did a great piece where it really covers a lot of the fantastic work that you've done. So in the next 5 to 10 years, where do you see the blockchain space? Do you see it in the mainstream? Do you see the everyday, regular user getting involved with blockchain? Do you think it's going to, create that mass adoption?
The short answer is absolutely yes. But just to backtrack a bit and connect it also to the meeting yesterday, the result of the 3 meetings of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus are going to be nailed into a report with recommendations for the government in adopting and easing the way for such technologies and innovations such as Sapien, such as Espresso, to be able to really unleash their power, not only in the world and to the world, which is much more open to blockchain innovation, but also in the US. So that is very important. So with such initiatives, with such, I can say, push, I would say, yes, because that's what the Congressional Blockchain Caucus was about. Definitely blockchain will unleash earlier rather than later. So I don't want to wait 5 to 10 years, but I want to see it now because the innovation is here. And why would it leave the US? Anyway, US or not, which is very sad for me to say, blockchain is king, I can say. So all these innovations, the change, and especially the radical change that the microeconomics of blockchain is realizing, it's unstoppable. Now we can, people who never had a bank account can have accounts, they can have credit, they can start out of nothing to participate in the economy. That's how, for example, BitLumens is helping the single mothers in the developing world to have light for their children to learn by enabling investments in solar panels. Someone from Germany can invest in the solar panel that will be on the little home of a person in rural Nigeria or Guatemala. So these things are and were impossible before without blockchain. So this is what the blockchain is unleashing. And of course, the powers, which, as we know them, the centralized powers, are not comfortable with that. They cannot kind of get their head around. We are looking at such technology and at such innovation through the old lenses, and it doesn't work. So we have to redefine the way in which we regulate distributed systems, because we never had and never encountered them before with such power. You mentioned Espresso. Yes, and Espresso is actually enabling, especially government organizations, but also larger organizations, it's enabling them to adopt blockchain, because what they do, it's actually a lot more or less like an iconic drag and drop language for implementing blockchain without learning all the complex solidity programming languages and so on. So it makes the blockchain accessible, and that is also accelerating it. To a very, very large extent. One other aspect, of course, because you mentioned data is the new oil. So here is another company in which I'm involved, and that is Endor, which now shines because it's actually practically saving and rescuing artificial intelligence from the GDPR, and that is the general privacy protection regulations, because they can process encrypted data on blockchain. So the identities of people are encrypted. So we at Endor are like to say that no breach guaranteed or breach proof prediction engine. That's again a radical innovation that will enable the adoption of blockchain, the adoption of social media platforms such as Sapien, because people will feel much safer in giving their data. And then they can benefit as well from the processing of the data, because they can ask questions to a prediction engine that is using their encrypted data, which is safe, and also benefit from the answers to those questions. So there's so much more. I could talk for hours about the future, but I think you get the idea.
No, of course. That's amazing. And I agree with you 100%. I think this is a very great time for the United States to keep innovation here and, get behind this new technology that's changing the lives of people all over the world. And by keeping innovation here, you propel the technology. And that's, as the United States wants to be a leader in all fields, like there's no difference with blockchain technology. And, once again, thank you to the work that you're doing, being a leader to these conferences, going to these caucuses, getting the information out. And, the industry needs more people like you, because that's how the change happens, for people to be bold and courageous and go and speak out and talk about what is actually happening and where the change needs to be. Because right now, the only voice that's been, out there in the mainstream has been the centralized corporations, and they've been controlling the narrative. But now blockchain technology is really changing that, and it's coming back to the user, it's coming back to the people, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and I think.
And I must say that I've always been on this mission. Indeed, as I said, for a few decades since my PhD work. However, I've never been in a better position to fight for this until now, when actually the true innovations are out there. So I'm going there. And I must say that also yesterday at the Congressional Blockchain Caucus, there were only 2 or 3 startups present, or startup voices, let's put it this way, present, like I was speaking on behalf of Sapien and the other companies which I advise. However, the others, the majority, were still the old guard. So I'm very happy that I could come with examples, with really resounding and solid examples to show and to really make the point that it's not only a dream, like a far-fetched dream or some research project in some hidden lab, so that this is a reality. And I think they got it. So it's co-creation here. So I couldn't, do this without Sapien, without you guys being there in the trenches and coding and really unleashing the power of this innovation into the world.
Amazing. The technology is here, and it's only growing. So everyone needs to be prepared. And it's great that this type of information is, cycling all over the internet, and people are able to learn about it, and the future looks really bright. But Doctor, I wanted to thank you for your time. This was a fantastic episode of Meet the Advisors, and we will be seeing you next week in person in Miami. And we have something very exciting coming out soon. And thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you as well, and thank you. Keep up the good work, Sapien.
Thank you, Doctor. Take care.
Bye.